Greetings and welcome. Rob Simpson along with John Forslund. I don't know which side you're on. The thing goes
Very nice. Very nice way to welcome everyone.
Yes,
That's
it is
big
saying
of you.
our names first.
Yes.
Simmer and Forsland. And by the way,
Mhm.
people, you know who John is because he's like world famous play-by-play guy, NBC, TNT, and of course Seattle Kraken. If you're wondering who the hell I am, I've just been covering the game for 30 years on multiple television and radio networks, and now I'm writing about it for the most part on SeattleHockeyInsider.com. Boom. And we have ourselves a finite amount of time. So I'm starting I opened the calculator. I was trying to open the stopwatch. And we're going to go 28 minutes today. And in honor of 28, I am selecting, there goes the clock, Reed Larson. Drafted by the Red Wings, showed up in the late 70s, defenseman, wicked drive, as Bruce Martin used to say, high, hard ones, like terrifying slap shot back then. And he ended up being moved along to the Boston Bruins at one point. He's a Minnesota boy, but man, we used to enjoy watching Reed Larson unleash those slappers.
He could bring it. He could bring it, Simmer.
Yep. Who do you got?
I'm going to go with well-known Carolina Hurricane Alexander Semin. Okay, we'll get to that later.
What? Come on, you got to tell us Semin.
You want the story right now?
Yeah, right now.
Alexander Semin joined the Hurricanes in and around lockout number 3, the 2012-13 season. And I'll tell you what, he was immensely talented, right? A great goal scorer, a heavy shot, somewhat of an enigma, great years with Washington, came to Carolina, was a pretty good fit for what Jim Rutherford was attempting to do at the time, keep the team relevant, get him in the playoffs, needed a sniper, he was that. But they were playing Anaheim one night, and he cruised by the Anaheim bench, and Corey Perry was just sitting there along the bench, and as Semin went by, he grabbed his stick and ripped it right out of his hands and put it in their side of the bench. And Semin just looked at him and shrugged his shoulders, and he didn't know what to do. Most guys would have gone head over heels right into the bench and ripped the stick out of the guy's hands and whatever, but it was kind of a defining moment for him in his Hurricanes career. That's what I remember. That's the first 28 I thought of today. So there you go.
Very nice. So basically, what you're saying here, kind of saying, is he just didn't have the to go back and get a stick. He wasn't confronting Corey Perry. Let's just put that.
Most people would not confront Corey Perry anyway, right? So I certainly wouldn't. I'll tell you that. So I can understand.
He circled back and got a new stick?
He went and got a new stick.
Right.
And then at some point, Perry kind of laughed and shrugged his shoulders and threw the stick on the ice at the next stoppage, and they picked it up and life went on.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Now, technically, had a referee, a man wearing an orange band, seen it, I would think that would be interference.
It would be. Yeah.
You're not allowed to reach off the bench and interrupt play.
No, you're not.
Okay.
It could have been close to the whistle. Who knows? Might have been after a whistle.
Okay.
In and about it, but you can't do that. Anyway. I don't remember all the details.
That's beautiful, though. It's a great story. It sums up Semin, I think.
It might.
I think that was the whole idea. All right, we're talking Kraken. You and I have been at the rink a lot lately. You just got home from there. 2 sessions today. First of all, and I wrote about it on Seattle Hockey Insider today about the whole first session, second session thing, first group, second group. You can read into it to some extent, but you can't overread into it because they want to give guys chances to work with both groups. How much do you read into who's where?
No, you can't read much into anything right now. They're coming off a bonding weekend where they took their off day and utilized it for team bonding. And they reconvene on Sunday, and then they still have 3 preseason games left. The last one being a tune-up with maybe a couple of players that a decision might have to be made on. Certainly the game that's up in Vancouver at Abbotsford on Wednesday night will be a younger group, and I think they'll have to keep some numbers around for that game specifically. Yeah. I would imagine the home game Monday night against Edmonton will be more or less an NHL lineup. There's a couple of guys that need to get some reps in, say, for instance, Jaden Schwartz, who's yet to play in the preseason. Yep. Chris Drieger, who's played in Calgary on the split squad day, but hasn't had an opportunity to play at home yet. Maybe he gets an opportunity on Monday night. And Joey Decord, who hasn't had an opportunity to start a game yet in goal, may get that in the remaining 3 games, with possibly Grubauer getting the last tune-up in Edmonton before the start of the regular season. So it's late, but it's early, if that makes any sense. You know, things will speed up here daily, but certainly as we tape this, I wouldn't read much into anything other than basically the line's been drawn, I think, between the NHL group and others, but certainly anything's possible.
Yeah. All right. You stimulated a few things out of that. Now, Jaden Schwartz hasn't played in a game yet. And on the exit media, at the end of the season, he said, yeah, I've been bothered by this and that. He basically took pretty much all the morning skates off last year, skipped some practices. He's bothered. He thought he was going to be healthy 100%. So what do we think's going on?
Not much other than giving him an opportunity to just rest up a little bit more. He's been practicing every day. He hasn't missed a practice. Yeah. So I just think it's numbers and getting to a certain lineup. And I'd be surprised if he doesn't play Monday night. And so if he does play Monday night, I say it's business as usual. He can't play everybody. Yeah. And the thing about this training camp is the Kraken, as opposed to year 1 and a little bit better in year 2, but this has been a real training camp. There are layers of players, NHL veteran players, mid-range players with an opportunity, prospects who are trying to, get their feet wet. You can see the levels of the organization finally in this 3rd year. So because of that, they've had an opportunity to give some young players a real good look, and why not? But we're now at a point where it's important for the veteran players to get their reps in.
Yeah. Layers of players. You're a poet and didn't know it. The Joey Decord situation, if that's overutilizing that word, but Joey Decord versus Chris Driedger, if you will. Yeah. He hasn't given up a goal during a period. He was very upset. I happened to walk into the dressing room after the Calgary game, and he was kind of lingering around. He wasn't part of the media thing, but he was I think he was ticked off because he lost that shootout. But otherwise, his looked really good. So how do you evaluate that backup situation right now?
Well, it's hard for me to evaluate Driedger because I wasn't in Calgary. I was here. Yeah. So the only, thing that's a drawback about a split squad day is you can only see one game, right? So the reports look pretty good. The box score looked pretty good for Driedger. He's looked good in practice, but Decord has been excellent. Decord's coming off one of those seasons where you say, what else do you need to do at the American League level? Now's his time to either get a job or they're going to have a difficult decision and maybe there's another location for him, right? Same thing for Driedger. Driedger, to be fair, coming off a very serious injury, which held him out of action, as you know, all of last year, had a chance to get back at it in the American League, but it was Decord's team and Decord's mission, and Joey Decord played 26 playoff games and took them right to Game 7 overtime in the Calder Cup Finals. So what I like about Decord is the fact that he looks really fundamentally sound. He's a strong, athletic goaltender, and he handles the puck better than Philip Grubauer and better than Chris Driedger. So it's better than most goalies. So it's a different look when he's in there. It's hard to game plan against a team when they play one way with a puck handler and another way with a guy who doesn't. It might give the Kraken, should he make the team, an interesting wrinkle for the opponents to look at. But the team's going to have to be convinced that he's ready to make a strong contribution and play in excess of 20 games, because every number 2 in the NHL is playing around that number or even higher. Philip Grubauer at his age and wear and tear and all of that, I think 50 to 55 games might be the number. And then you've got, 25 to 30 games for the number 2, whoever it is. Driedger's been able to do that in his career, but again, a long way back from a significant injury.
Is Decord the next Spencer Martin? I mean, he has a lot more games experience than what we saw for Vancouver's backup that ended up flopping. They had, oh my God, this guy's the answer. And they brought in Colin Delia to be kind of as an emergency situation. And then when Demko got hurt last year for the Canucks, both backups didn't get it done and the whole thing went south. And that goaltender, Spencer Martin, has since been waived and picked up by the Columbus Blue Jackets. So if you waive one or the other, Driedger or Decord, there's a damn good chance he's getting snagged. by another NHL club. And that leaves you with
Right.
basically a backup who has to get the job done.
That's correct. And really, the next level at Coachella Valley will either be young Stesla, Czech-born goalie who's still with the Kraken, or Jack LaFontaine, who's there now.
Yeah.
Jackson Castor was in camp as I'm not sure where that all lines up, but yes, it would severely cut into the depth of the Kraken's goaltending. It's really good for an organization to have three guys that are capable, because injuries do and will happen. We've seen it here.
Yep.
And there's a team in the East, as you know, that needs a goaltender no matter what they say. The Tampa Bay Lightning are saying all the right things about their situation with Andrei Vasilevsky, but they've lost their superstar goalie for 8 to 10 weeks with back surgery. So they're saying that they can handle it internally with Jonas Johansson, number one, and others. But I got to think they're going to go out and either waiver pickup or trade for, or see what they can do that way to get a guy in there that can help out, because they're going to need that, because you can ill afford a bad start.
Right. So let's face it. If one of these guys gets waived, and you're not carrying three.
Right. No.
You have to roll the dice. Right now, they have no choice. They're going to have to wait for these guys.
And Drieger has the bigger cap hit, so those things are always considered. But I mean, I think where everything is at right now, it's may the best goalie win, right? So to be fair to both of these players, Drieger, who had really good moments in year number one for the Kraken, had some nagging injuries, then went to the World Championships and was writing a really good story, and then had this major knee problem, which sidelined him the majority of last season. So to be fair to him, he's worked hard to be where he's at. He's got a real good shot at the number two, as we talked today, and so does Joey. And then the Kraken will worry about what happens next. But certainly this is a big week. This will be a great week to see, how this shakes out, and may the best goalie win.
Yeah. Drieger, by the way, as you mentioned, World Championships, he's playing in the gold medal game for Canada when he injured the ACL. So right there at the end, it was unfortunate for him. We can also say, Forsy, may the best defenseman win.
Mm-hmm.
And where is Ryker Evans, our prospect, who I believe it was Mr. Tambellini who said he's a rock star. He told me that after the development camp.
Yeah.
Where is he? What are we doing here with Ryker Evans? He's a threat.
Simmer, every day he hits the ice, it looks like he belongs in the National Hockey League. And so I don't know where this will be too. I think there's a lot of things to take into consideration here. But again, this is a big week for Ryker Evans. Vince Dunn missed practice on Sunday with a maintenance situation. So we're not going to get a lot of information about that. Maybe as the week progresses, we will. Don't have any reason to believe it's anything but that. That's what the coach said today. So Dunn should be okay. So no red flags for the fans or anything. But as far as Ryker Evans is concerned, he too has done everything he needs to do at the American League level. Maybe they feel he could go down there and play more. I guess he could. But when you play a full season and you play 26 playoff games and you get right to the brink of the Calder Cup, I don't know what else can happen other than put your time in, kid, and we'll give you a call and bring you back up. But he's good enough to make the roster, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think that's shared by a lot of people. So again, they're going to give him a good, long, hard look. They're going to probably utilize him in power play situations in the games that he plays of the three that remain, and then see. The six are pretty easy to put down on paper, right? And they are on paper. And Brian Dumoulin's look good. And Justin Schultz is a big part of the team. There's no doubt about that. He's anchoring today at practice the first power play. So, and that's with Dunn being out of there. Evans had the second power play unit. So when you look at it, Evans has played well enough to be right in the mix if you had to put six defensemen on the ice, in my opinion, at the NHL level. Yeah. So this is a tremendous story for a second-round pick in the first draft. And that's the beauty of where the organization's at right now. We've seen this progression now. So now we've got, Beniers, who has come out of that draft, and now you've got Evans knocking on the door. And if you can strike on your first two picks and they play at the NHL level and play well, you got something. But as I watched Evans last year in the American Hockey League playoffs, I saw a player that was dominant, absolutely dominant at that level.
26 points in 26 playoff games, chasing the Calder Cup. It raises so many other questions, though, because the Kraken have had that real nice righty-lefty balance, righty-lefty balance.
Yeah.
You see a lot of teams struggling with that. They prefer to have right, left, right, left, right, left. He's a lefty. He's been playing the right side a little bit. He was with Alexiak the other night and did a hell of a job playing his offside. He got kind of handcuffed, and one time it was because Alexiak fed him kind of hung him out to dry along the end boards with a pass. They got trapped early in the third period for probably a minute in their zone. And they eventually got it out. And there was a couple turnovers involved there. Shane Wright threw the pizza out there. But let's say he sticks. So you've added a lefty. Now you have to decide, okay, which one of these guys that you just referred to is on paper is either sitting in the press box or goes bye-bye. And that's a pretty drastic situation potentially. Will Borgen's has been with the second group the last two sessions. Again, do we read into that with Evans? No.
I don't think so. I would, Dunn and Larson, Alexiak, Borgen, Dumoulin, Schultz. Those are your 6 defensemen. I think that's fair. Yep. And then you've got a decision between Jason Megna, Cale Fleury, and Ryker Evans. And the organization, the conventional way to do this would be, first of all, they have to decide how many D they want to start the year with. Right. And given the schedule and an Eastern road trip, probably 2 extra defensemen might be the way they go. So for our new fans, you can only carry 23 players. 2 of those will be goalies. Teams can either have 1 extra defenseman and a couple of extra forwards. Some teams, because of cap constraints, will only dress 22 guys or put 22 guys on the roster. The Kraken should be able to put 23 on the roster, which would mean 2 defensemen, 1 extra forward, right? So if you look at it that way, the conventional thing would be the younger player without waivers goes to the minors and starts. That would be an easy thing to do. Yep. If Evans continues to bust the door down, and this can happen. I remember a few years back, Braden Point in Tampa just bust the door down this last camp and said, I'm not going back. I'm here. I'm a young player. Give me an opportunity. And they never look back from that guy. And he's a tremendous player.
Great player.
This appears to be a situation like that in terms of my observations. That's what I'm looking at. So then you have Megna and Fleury both have to pass through waivers, I believe. So you would do that. That's what happens next weekend. We see players on waivers right now, but most of those players you could ticket to the American Hockey League anyway, right? The next weekend will be the difficult decisions, and there'll be players available to help other teams. So any of these guys could be of value. Fleury didn't play much last year. I think it was a dozen games, right? But he's a right-handed D. That's not easy to find. He's a good young player. He moves the puck well. He's got good mobility, good team guy. Really, when you sit around as long as he did last year, I saw a guy never had a bad day, never got sour about his situation, went through it and did well with it. Megna's in the same boat, had a good year with San Jose, came here at the end of the year, was a hard lineup to crack. He's popular with his teammates. He's got some veteran status in the league. He's an easy guy to pull in and out of the lineup, right? But if he's available, big body, lefty, would another team be interested? Maybe. Are the Kraken worried about that? They might be, but the best players have to play in the National Hockey League. And Ryker Evans, to me, looks like an NHL player. He really does. This week will tell us a lot.
By the way, Fleury, like Megna, also, not waiver eligible. So he's well into his second contract, a 24-year-old defenseman. So we have big lefties. That would be the argument in terms of, okay, if you definitely if Evans is there, Megna's the guy who's out, because you've got large left-handed defensemen. They got decent size along the blue line without him in the lineup, in the top 6 already. So Fleury's a nice, as you mentioned, a righty to have around. And then Ryker becomes your rover replacement guy that can fill in if need be.
Well, and I think a decision would be made. Say, let's just throw stuff off the wall here. Say he makes the team, okay, Evans. Say he makes the team, and if it's a situation where the Kraken are playing well with what they have dressed, and it looks like pretty much a set lineup, and they're off because the first 10 games are tough. And if they get off to if they split those games, I think the Kraken are going to have a very good season. I really believe that. When you look at who they play Carolina twice. You've got the Rangers, Colorado, Vegas. I mean, it is a tough October, right? And so if they're able to get 10 points somehow, I think the team will have a good year. And if Ryker is not playing, that's not good for him. So then they could make a decision as we get into the schedule. But we're just talking about this week. We're just talking about who goes to Las Vegas and who's available to play on October 10th. And as of right now, based on his preseason games and his everyday practice habits and the way he looks on the ice, the young man does not look out of place at all to me.
Right. And he can go up and down. The waiver part is not a threat. You can't be claimed. We have about 7 minutes left in our Reed Larson Alexander 7 special, honoring the number 28th. A guy that fans love to ask about, they seem concerned about, and part of it's his backstory. 4th overall pick, 2022, Shane Wright. So what do we think? He's been with the first group. He's there again today. He's getting plenty of reps, he's getting plenty of looks, and is that the whole idea? Let's exercise this through. What do we have?
Well, the good news is, to me, he looks like a different player, so that's good. So he's come back to the good, right? It's come back positive. So he worked hard. He looks a little lighter to me, and I don't mean that being frail. I just mean I think he's in better condition. I think he's in better condition. That will come normally as he physically matures. And then you watch how he's played, and he's played well. His game here the other night was strong. He is a center. There's a lot of responsibility, NHL level.
Yep.
They have 4 centers that you can write down on paper, and that's the way it looks. As you go down the list here with Beniers, Wenberg, Gordon, Belmar, here you go again. You got a situation for Shane Wright. I don't think he's on the wall. I don't think he's a winger. I think they want him to be a center. And in order for him to play that position, play it well, again, he might, and we're throwing stuff off the wall, he might need to season long and hard at the AHL level if he's allowed to play there. Now, officially, that decision has not been made public yet, so I don't know it completely. I'm sure the team knows.
They know. But it sounds like it
sounds like he can go there, right?
Yep.
So if he can go there and play high-end minutes and be on a power play and anchor it and kill penalties if they want him to and get better in the face-off circle and play against real good pros, game in, game out, and go there and just become the total player and be ready. Get him back to the NHL when he's ready. Don't do it again. I think they were in a tough spot last year. What were you supposed to do with him? I think Ron had every intention to make it good for him. I think the best thing for him at his age and what's happened to him with COVID and his junior career and all that and slipping to 4, I think in his headspace, he needed to be in Seattle to start the season. And then they kind of figured it out along the way, but they recognized we got to find a spot for him. That was junior hockey. Then it was to the American League. And as the playoffs started in the American League, it wasn't all great. It wasn't all rosy for Shane Wright, but it got better as it went along. And he was in the lineup at the end. He was in that Game 7 lineup against Hershey. So that's good. And he was making a contribution, but he wasn't asked to be a top 6 forward. You know, now as he goes back as a 19 burgeoning 20, maybe that's there for him. And if that's the case, then he will be ready when the time comes. Because you want him to step in and be what he's supposed to be. You want every player to reach the ceiling of what's expected. And for Shane Wright, he's expected to be a strong centerman in the National Hockey League. Let's not get carried away with where his career is going to go statistically. Just that's the role. And, you know, again, this is a big week because I think it's been really good. I think the coaches like what they've seen. Management likes what they've seen. He'll get a good long look this week, but does he fit the ideal 4th center? I'm not sure because Pierre-Edouard Bellemare is a 4th prototypical centerman right now in the NHL for this team in the now, not the future.
And his face-off win percentage is 7% higher than everybody else's. for a
Right.
team that does not win very many draws.
Right.
Are winning it, and he's been looking good on the penalty kill, which is another thing that they're hoping to get out of him. So yeah, Shane Wright's still just a kid.
Right. And then there's other options on the wall like Cartier, right? So, whether Yamamoto's in there, Cartier's in there, Tanev's not going anywhere. He'll be on that line. So, that's what they're looking at. Do you want to carry two young players? I don't think so. I think if Cartier makes the team and he's in and out, they might live with that for a while. Yeah. But I know, listen, I've known Ron Francis a long time. And his ideal situation for any player is to go play somewhere, whatever level it is. And when you dominate at those levels like Evans was able to do, then you're ready. That you can't say that, to be fair to Shane Wright. It's just he just hasn't had enough opportunity to do that. But if he continues to do what he's doing this week, that too will be a very difficult decision because the team still does not have a right-handed option in the center slot the way it's lined up right now. And I don't think that's a big deal, but it could become one. We'll see.
And in a dream world, and maybe it's a year away, it's Beniers lefty number 1 and Mr. Wright righty number 2. And he has been good. He's been flying around. He's been creative. Yeah. Almost, I've seen moments like the old famous hockey phrase, trying to do too much. There's been a few occasions where he is just so wired and so determined and fired up for this thing.
Yeah.
Mistakes have been made out of the passion and just trying to do too much.
Well, the play he made on the Melanson goal the other night never would have happened last year. Right. He would have had the chance, he would have got flustered, and he wouldn't have had the presence of mind to go back, get it, and make a play.
But watch the play that Wright makes. He finds the puck, and he shoots it. He attacks the net. No hesitation. Watch the pass right there. He throws it out to Melanson.
So he was in the right place. He gets it off with authority. Demko makes a really good save. Wright gets the rebound, dishes back. Melanson gets the goal. It's a really good play. He played well in that game. He really did.
He did. And I mentioned the turnover he had, though, coming out of the zone under pressure. Yeah. That was just a matter of he's trying to do something a little too creative in a situation where just get the thing out. At that point, you trap for 60 seconds, get the damn thing out. Don't try to make some pass.
That's what they'll learn in the American League, right? That's a really good point you bring up because those are the things you don't have time for, right? Many coaches have said this. I don't know which one said it first, but they said you don't learn at this level. Yeah. You learn somewhere else, right? And they're not going to have time for that. If the team were not as good, if the team didn't have expectations based on what happened last year, but you go 2 rounds and you're in the seventh game of the second round, you're not coming back this year thinking, hopefully they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, I know internally the team believes they can go further. They want to take the next step. You heard McCann's comments in the offseason and others. They believe they can win. And the league is wide open. There's no team, all due respect to the champions, that's that far superior than another. So, it's doable, but you can't waste time. And I don't say that disrespectfully. You can't waste time on little things where young players have to learn. Teams that have gone through the cycle like Buffalo, Ottawa, Arizona, Chicago, they're gonna live like Connor Bedard's brilliant, but he's gonna make mistakes. Yeah. You're gonna live with that. Patty Kane and Taves and those kids, they made mistakes when they were rookies, but that just comes with the territory. But if your organization's in that spot, you can live with it. But if this team is not, this team has got too many veterans who want to kick at it, and you got to have a reliable guy like Belmar, I believe, in that role.
Yeah. Good passion, Johnny Kidd. Good passion. Telling you what, by the way, Vegas, not only is there other teams not right there with them in the league, how about in the division? But we'll say that. Next time around, we'll go 24 minutes. So start thinking of your favorite number 24. Okay. We'll only go 24 next time. And you brought up a name, Cartier. We'll get into Ty Cartier next time. And I'm also going to bring up next time something we've not seen that we always used to see in the preseason training camp. Kids giving it their... We haven't seen a fight. Can you believe that?
I know.
20 years ago, there would have been
3
on the first day. I know.
It's going the way of the mongoose, Simmer.
Let's not open that can of worms yet, but we'll probably have a lot of fun telling some stories next time out. We have reached our Reed Larson, Alexander Semin time limit. And what an interesting combination of names, by the way.
Yeah.
Two completely different players, but that's the beautiful thing about hockey. Johnny Forslund, thanks very much. We'll see you next time. We'll see you at the rink. And
Simmer.
we thank you.
Thank you, buddy.